One of the biggest questions in One Piece is, who will Luffy end up with at the end of One Piece? Or rather, who will each Mugiwara end up with at the end of One Piece? Are they going to marry someone? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. And if you were curious, follow me and follow this video until the end. Hey guys, my name is Lucas. Another video here today talking about the Mugiwaras. This time, who will each Mugiwara end up with at the end of One Piece? This video here is part of a playlist just commenting on the Mugiwaras here on the channel. We already have several other videos that I believe you will like. To watch them, just watch this video until the end and I'll remind you there. For now, leave that like as out, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and now without further ado, let's go to the video. It may not seem like it, but Oda does work a novel in One Piece, and in different ways. The only difference is that this novel is something that is in the background or third place in Oda. But there it is, we have several examples. Examples that I can cite here for you are Lola's. She was always trying to get a husband and asking to marry countless men only to be rejected in the end, to the point where she found her true soulmate. The love between Chiffon and Capone Gangbang can also be an example, which even bore fruit within the world of One Piece. And it was also recently worked on by Oda, who even poured him with Sanji, and started with a plan to kill all of Germa and ended up with her actually falling in love with him, but they couldn't be together at the end of the air. What I mean by that is, yes, there is romance within One Piece and it's worked in as many ways as possible, and the Mugiwaras are not excluded from this. As I already mentioned, Sanji appears as an example. But before I mention the couples and the chance for these couples to fulfill themselves within the Straw Hats, I need to talk about something very important or definitive that came from author E. Shoot Oda. In his board entitled SBS, which is a board where he answers questions from fans, the author himself gave his statement in an SBS, number 34, that most likely there will be no romance within the band or among the Mugiwaras. The reader asked, does anyone on Luffy's team fall in love? Won't there be romance between some of them? Sanji is an exception to this question. I'm just asking. And Oda went there and answered that question. Of course they will fall in love with the adventure. By that answer, most likely, in the course of current history, no. There will be no romance between the Mugiwara and, consequently, couples like Luffy, Nami, Zoro and Robin or Robin and Frank will not exist as long as the Mugiwara are sailing together. But from the moment the journey is over and they split up, I don't know, the story can be very different. Another point that collaborates with the possibility of non-romance within the gang is the fact that the end of One Piece can be a much more common ending than we expect, and if the gang never separates, there will never be romance between them. In most manga, a very common and convenient ending is what the protagonists leave for a new journey that we will no longer follow. It was like this with Fire Tail, Bleach, Nanatsu, Demon Slayer, among others. Anything that is a common and convenient ending, and of course, I'm not comparing One Piece with these works or these manga, this is an ending that fits One Piece very well. Luffy, king of the pirates, calls the gang on another adventure and the story ends as Sunny disappears over the horizon. If the story goes with that perspective, then the pack will never break up, and with that there will be no romance within the pack. It is somehow the end of One Piece is different, with each Mugiwara splitting up around the world, like Roger's gang did. There's a possibility that yes, romance between the Mugiwara could happen, especially because they will no longer be sailing together, and then couples like Luffy and Nami could happen. With all that said, let's get to the couples. The most obvious and most likely to happen is Sop and Kaya. Everyone knows the close relationship the two have and have developed over time since they were little, but thanks to Sop's predictions, and no, they weren't lies, he ended up making his life a little happier. And in the end, it was her bravery that mobilized Luffy, Zoro and Nami to fight against Captain Kuro, so that in the end, she freed herself from all her bonds and finally managed to have a happy life. Not to mention that Kaya has a good eye. She knows how hot he would become after the time skip and ended up sowing that love to welcome in the future. On her part, we know that she has been rejecting several suitors to save herself for the true Greek god. So Sop and Kaya together at the end of One Piece is already canonymous. Even more so with at least 3 Narugodinos. But one that might even be kind of obvious is Chopper with Milk, a friend who is Zoe's Rena. And why does this couple have everything to work out? Because Oda already mentioned on SBS that Chopper has no interest in human women, even though he is also part human now. And if a female reindeer appears, charming and still with human features or characteristics, then it is another story. Besides, our dear reindeer already had his heart set on her when they met there in Zoe. So it's her. If not, it'll just be any female reindeer, because humans are ruled out. But there's still a risk that none of the normal reindeer will want him for having a blue nose, just as he was rejected and despised as a child. So Chopper and Milk will happen. For Nami within the Straw Hat crew, I can only see her staying with Luffy. Ew, Nami and Luffy is lame. That will never happen. We were able to draw many parallels between Luffy and Roger, Zoro and Ray, and even Nami and Rouge, including physical characteristics. At the end of his journey, Roger ended up living like a true father on the island of Badarilla, alongside Rouge, which resulted in the birth of Ace. So for us to have a 2bis, this relationship has to generate a son of the king of the pirates, and Nami fits very well with that kind of bossy wife, as we usually see in moments when she interacts with Luffy. We could even think of Sanji, but he's more of a slave to her than anything else, so I don't think it works with Sanji, but Nami and Luffy even have a historical context to work, and who knows, it won't happen. For the king of panties, Brook, we have the best the world has to offer. For him, for sure, it's the big moon, and that's if she hasn't died. Oda himself already canonized this for us, with Brook taking a nap with the strongest old lady in the world of One Piece. In addition to the fact that she was very sad when he supposedly died, she suffered a lot from being abandoned. Not to mention that the two were already veterans in the world of piracy. But jokes aside, I don't see Brook having a perfect match for him, at least not yet, or even a partner for him to marry. I believe that at the end of One Piece, if the Mugiwaras don't continue sailing together, he will end up becoming Laboon's companion until the end of his days. Or maybe he will take Croca's place after he dies and stay there as a guard at the Twin Capes. That could happen too. For Robin, we have 4 suitable suitors that would make a lot of sense. The first is Zoro. Even with the age disparity between them, she at 30 and he at 21, we already had several panels in which not only Oda but Toei itself gives that incentive, placing the two as very close at different times. Upon her entry into the gang, she'd even made Zoro a little charm when she realized that he didn't accept her entry very well. With Frank in the same way, we have already seen several panels with her next to Frank Zhao and still lacking the bodywork of the machine, or even with Jimbaso. If there is romance among the Mugiwaras, this one is already canonical. Jinmei and Robin are a great match, and she has even mentioned that she likes the presence of an older, more mature man in the pack. So, I don't know, Robinzina likes older men who are charming and smell like fish. That might be canonical too. But these 3 suitors would only have a chance if there was romance between the Mugiwaras. If not, we have one more suitor for her, in this case, Dragon, Luffy's father. She already mentioned that she likes more experienced men, and he is 10 years older than her. He has much more experience. And when the Mugiwaras make a new breakthrough into the world of piracy, he wants to know more about Robin than his own son. And it wouldn't be for less. The sage should fill his head with things related to Luffy. But here we have another suitor for her. And if you're enjoying this video, leave that like out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As I said, we have several other videos talking only about the Mugiwaras here on the channel that I believe you will like. I'll leave the link on the card up here or on the final screen of this video, so watch the video until the end. Frank has already been mentioned as someone who would be a great suitor for Rob, one of the chips that would make sense if they ended up together at the end of One Piece. But Frank is more like bad boy. He's already dismissed Lola over at Trailer Park. He's already got a big kiss over there at the Smiles Factory, but he ends up being really into machines. But if there is a female cyborg, I don't think he would do without it. One that fits very well in this vacancy and that appeared recently is one of Vegapunk's satellites, Lilith. One that can also be considered as Garotama, who loves technology. And her being Vegapunk, it makes perfect sense if there was a relationship between the two of them at the end of One Piece. I think Frank would fall in love or get even the old Vegapunk, imagine Lilith. So this couple has everything to work out too. For Jimbaso, we have already mentioned Robin as the ideal partner if there is a romance between the Mugiwara. But based on the assumption that it will not happen and that generally the races prefer to relate to each other, we could think of Jimbaso with Madame Shirley. That's right, Madame Shirley. Of course, we never had anything related to the two in the work, at any time, but she ends up being the sister of Jimmy's old friend, in this case Arlong. And who never caught the friend's sister who would throw the first stone at her. So it could be that something between the two, even just looks, could happen back then when they were younger, while Jimbaso was playing with Arlong. I don't know. But like it or not, she is a mermaid or a shark, he is a merman or a shark. Everything fits together and can happen. Note: don't make out with the little friend's sister, that's wrong. Now for Sanji we have some suitors. In the path I see that he would make more sense with Nami than with Roby, but he would be more of a servant of her than a pyromancer. Now outside the band we can mention Viola, princess of the kingdom of Dressrosa, as well as Sanji as the prince of the kingdom of Guir. Even more so that there was a climate between the two of them throughout the air, where she met a real man and did not submit to a murderer and manipulator. So it would make a lot of sense if it happened. But we can also quote Artel Porum. They were almost forced to get married during the Rollerquake arc, to join the Visnik family and the Charlotte family, but still, Sanji was willing to give himself to this marriage and made it very happy, until he discovered the whole plan to murder her family. But from the moment she discovered the true essence of Saint Sanji, and for the first time was accepted as he really was, she ended up falling in love with him with all her strength, even unintentionally. At the end of the arc they couldn't be together, but at least they managed to say goodbye in a proper way, even if Sanji never remembers it, so she would also make a great couple with Sanji. For Zoro, I've already mentioned Robin if it's within the pack, But outside of it we have Perona as the great suitor. As much as Zoro is the grumpy type, she knows or knew how to deal with him very well as a true companion, but she also did everything for him from his arrival on Mihawk's Island to Sabaody, where he found the Mugiwaras once again. In addition to the fact that she is very beautiful, not to mention that there is chemistry between her and Mihawk as well. And this is another seasoning for the final battle between the two. Whoever wins becomes the greatest swordsman in the world and is free to try to win the heart of Phantasmina. But we could not fail to mention Hiyori Volgo with Murasaki, the most beautiful woman in Pai Joan. She treated Zoro after he saved her life and even slept with him of her own free will, even showing us a certain happiness that this happened. Zoro didn't know it, but there are people who would even die to sleep with her and he got it all for free and without asking. I did say that there was even a climate, so this couple can happen. To close this video we have Luffy. I've already talked about him and Nami and also considering parallels with Roger and Rouge, so it's a couple that could happen if there was a relationship between the pack members. But outside of it we can mention Boa Hancock, one of the most beautiful women, if not the most beautiful woman in the world of One Piece, who ended up falling in love with this Luffy. See if there's logic in a thing like that happening, especially since all Amazon Lily Queens have a certain love sickness, which makes them leave everything behind in favor of this love. It was recently revealed that Shock was the former queen who abandoned her throne, most likely to be with Rayleigh. So Boa Hancock and Luffy can have something or they can give something, even more so if the package comes with an unlimited supply of meat for the rest of their lives. Then even I would conquer Luffy. In contact without the gang breaking up, Amazon Lily would be a great place for Luffy to hide and even to have a child, for who knows, to have the continuation of the story in a two-piece I don't know. Now it's your turn to participate in this video. Already comment below who you want each of the Mugiwaras to be with. Comment here and make your list and I'll be watching and I'll be giving you my little heart. As I said, we have several other videos talking only about the Mugiwaras here on the channel. I'll leave it on the final screen of this video. For now, leave that like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As I said, the videos will be appearing on the final screen of the video. I say goodbye here, a hug and thanks.